NYPD FDNY Ceremonial Unit, and the New York State Court Ceremonial Unit, pipes and drums. During his tenure as president. It gives me a great honor, great pleasure to introduce the borough president of the Bronx, our friend, Ruben Diaz.
Thank you once again for collaborating, you and your team, for collaborating with my team and my staff to make sure that we continue with this tradition of a day of remembrance here in our Bronx. Ladies and gentlemen, Supreme Court Justice Doug McKeon, thank you. Let's give him a strong round of applause. I want to thank Police Officer Acera for her wonderful rendition of the national anthem. I want to thank Reverend Cruz for being with us and imparting your words of wisdom and spirituality here on this event. Let's give them a strong round of applause. To the Boricua College Chorus, thank you, gracias, mil gracias. Thank you for adding to this event. And of course, what would we be without the pipes? Let's give them a strong round of applause. I want to acknowledge some of my partners in government here. Of course, my partner at Borough Hall, the illustrious, sagacious, ever energetic Deputy Borough President Loretta Green. Thank you, Madam Deputy. We were joined, I don't know if he's still with us here today, by a strong voice, not only an Assembly member, but also Vice Chair of the National Democratic Committee and Assembly Member Michael Blake. Thank you, Assemblyman Blake, for being with us here today. We have our Bronx County Clerk, Louis Diaz, with us here today. Thank you, Louis Diaz. We have New York State Supreme Court Justice Elizabeth Gonzalez. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for being with us, Your Honor. Civil Court Justice Jeanette Rosado. Gracias por estar con nosotros. We have Civil Court Justice Armando Montano. Thank you for being with us here today. Future Civil Court Justice Fidel Gomez is with us here today. We have New York City Civil Court Justice Donald Miles. Thank you for being with us here. And of course, the Chief of Police of the Bronx, my good friend, doing a great job keeping us all safe with the men and women in uniform in the NYPD, Larry Nakunin. Thank you. Where's the Chief? There's the Chief. Chief Stand Up, and all of the men and women of NYPD. We are also joined by the Chief of the Fire Department in the Bronx, Chief Waznika, thank you, and all of the men and women of the FDNY. Come on, let's give them a strong round of applause. We also want to thank all of the men and women in the Port Authority Police Department, thank you, as well as our court officers, our great court officers right here in the Boogie Down Bronx. Thank you all for being with us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, thank you all. Whether you're here seated with us under the tent, or whether you are within the sound of my voice, observing in the periphery, it is important that we continue with this day of remembrance. On that horrific day, we all witness, unfortunately, the very ugliest that humanity has to offer rear its head. The ugliest form of humanity rear its head that day. And it was there, Bishop Rosario, that those of us of faith, it was on that day that those of us who believe in God and the highest supreme authority, we tried to rationalize the fact that our belief in God, our belief in the higher authority, was rocked at its very core. We try to rationalize it by saying God works in mysterious ways. We try to rationalize it by saying everything happens for a reason. We saw those prayers answered in the form of solace, in the form of bravery, in the form of heroism. We saw individuals who paid the ultimate sacrifice in giving their lives. Men and women in uniform, men and women in the military. But we're here today not only to remember them, we're here today because of the 144 Bronxites who perished that day, that morning. We also had everyday Bronxites, everyday New Yorkers, everyday Americans, like my good friend Darryl McKinney, who many of you always hear me speak of, Pop, a young man from the Soundview section of the Bronx, who did everything that his parents asked him to do. Go to school, stay out of trouble, get a degree. He was a great basketball player. He and I had our moments on the basketball courts over there on Rosedale. His basketball talents got him a scholarship, where he then was able to get a degree in finance. That degree took him to one of the towers working for Cantor and Fitzgerald. Cantor and Fitzgerald probably lost more of its colleagues than any other corporation or business in the towers. Today we remember those individuals. Today we also have to keep in mind that it's significant even more so because of the natural disasters that we have witnessed in the last couple of weeks. Because we have American brothers and sisters that are suffering in the wake of Harvey and in the wake of Irma. Today is important because we have high school seniors who were not even born when 9/11 occurred. Today is important because we have to make sure that they understand what was at stake that day and in the days and weeks and months that followed. That day was an election day in the city of New York. That day was an attack on our democracy. And if there's a silver lining to the dark smoke of what we saw on Ground Zero, and if there's a lesson to be learned, are you Muslim? What's your sexual preference? What's your age? What's your what income bracket do you belong in? They did not ask whether your mother or your father were born in this country, your immigration status. And so subsequent to that, the lesson that was learned is that we are all in this together. That in our diversity, in all of the different walks of life, in all of the different colored threads in the fabric of what it means to be a New Yorker and what it means to be American, was assaulted, but we came together. And so now more than ever, when unfortunately you see some of the divisiveness and you hear the bigotry and the vilification that's happening, let us continue to observe 9/11. Observe those who perish. Observe those who are our heroes. But also remember forever the lessons, the silver lining, if you will, the mysterious way that God works and worked after that. Let us all come together and never forget those lessons and say hello and good afternoon and good morning and I love you to one another. That's what today means, and that's what observances like today moving forward should be about. That's why we're going to continue to do so, at least as long as I'm the borough president. I want to make mention of family members of William Valcarcel, who are always here, Miriam and Melissa, his wife and his daughter, who are with us here. I want to acknowledge also Teresa Noel, mother of Curtis Terrence Noel, who's always with us, and Grisel and Peter Moyer, parents of Manuel Del Valle, Sally Regenhart, mother of Christian Michael Otto Regenhart, and Elia Rodriguez, mother of Carlos R. Lilo, who is a paramedic. Let's give them all a strong round of applause. I want to acknowledge the 150th anniversary aerial ladder, which provided us with the FDNY ceremonial unit, and the second aerial ladder is being provided by the Division of Training, and of course for this beautiful flag that is being, let's give them all a strong round of applause. I also want to bring up, every year we have the songs that have been sang by Sid and Hank. Sid is not with us here today, but I want to acknowledge Hank and Sid with a citation of merit. Where's Hank? Hank, come on up, Hank. You and Sid Cherry always bring. Let's give them a strong round of applause. Thank you. Thank you for always making this a special event for all of the years. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And now, while we lost thousands of lives here in the Bronx, we'd like to carve out this day as well to acknowledge the 144 Bronxites that were lost. Men and women who exhibited the very best of who we are as human beings, who we are as God's children, but also everyday individuals who simply just went to work that morning, simply went to provide for their families, simply went to provide a service for who we are as New Yorkers. And so with that, the reading of the names.
Ignatius Udo Adanga, Sophia B. Addo, Emmanuel Akwazi Afwakwa, Anthony Alvarado, Robert J. Byerwalter, Gerard Baptiste, Victor Daniel Barboza, Peter Alexander Bielfeld, Sol E. Colon, Brenda E. Conway, Helen D. Cook, John Gerard Coughlin, Thomas P. Cullen III, John Delara, Thomas A. Damaskinos, Vincent Dons, Jose Nicolas de Peña, Nereida de Jesus, Manuel Del Valle Jr., Jerry DeVito, Dennis Lawrence Devlin, Nancy Diaz, Jeffrey Mark Dingle, Melissa C. Doy,
Before I bring Marvin Scott back up, I just want to say this. Chief McCunin, Chief Wasnika, thank you, and all of the men and women in uniform. Let's give them a strong round of applause. Please understand that we appreciate everything you guys do every single day, not just in the Bronx, but in the city of New York. To all of you listening, that bell tolled too many times, and that was just Bronxites. One of the things that we always hear is, let them not have died in vain. The names that you heard, those names represented Bronxites who also represented many different nationalities, a spectrum of ages and age groups. Those are names of Bronxites from every corner of our beloved borough. They represented many different nationalities and religions. Heck, they even represented different political parties. And if we are not going to let their names die in vain, let us all never forget, and let's pay homage to them by simply being good to each other. God bless you, and thank you. Marvin?
Some of my work to the lives lost and the families who lost people. I lost friends and students years ago, and I'm humbled, and I pray that we never have this misfortune again, and may God bless all the souls, whatever race, color, or creed. May God bless. Yours truly.
It's hard to believe it's 16 years later. And so one of the things that we could never do is forget. So I want Bronxites to do a number of things. I want them to always remember the fact that there were men and women in uniform, that there were first responders who paid the ultimate sacrifice to save lives that day. I want them to also remember that all of the people who died on that fateful morning, that 144 of them were from our beloved borough. I want them to also know that if you don't want them to have died in vain, that the lessons that we learned days and weeks and months and even years after the attacks was that of unity, love of country, love of patriotism. You know, the people who did this, they did not ask the victims, their nationality, where they were born, their immigration status, their economic status, their religious beliefs. They attacked all of us. So if we want to make sure that these folks, the people who perish, did not die in vain, then let's be good to each other as Bronxites. That's what I want Bronxites to take away from this.
It's really wonderful. And second, you talked a little bit about sort of the divisive nature that this country's kind of sinking into, and what you like.
Think about it. When right after 9/11, everybody was waving their flags, whether you were Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, or atheist. Whether you were black or white, old or young, from the Bronx, Brooklyn, to the east, to the west coast. And so there was a sense of unity, of camaraderie, of basic human decency towards each other. And yet, look what we have now. We're right in the wake of Charlottesville, where you have individuals who are marching and preaching hate and bigotry. We have a president of the United States. Instead of bringing us together, there's divisiveness. Now, I really don't want to get and make this too political, but have we not learned a lesson from 9/11? Are we really going to throw away everything good that at least transpired from that horrific morning? I see us going down a slippery slope. So I think it's important to have an event like this so that people could remember at least the good that came out subsequent to the attack.
Hello, sir. How you think as an immigrant, lot of immigrants moving to Bronx these days, and how the president taking action those times?
Well, President Trump, I think that Donald Trump needs to come to the Bronx so that he can see with his own eyes all of the great things that the immigration population is doing here. We are a borough of 1.4 million people. Over 40% were born in another country. When you look at the economic development, when you look at the housing, when you look at how safe we've been, the safest Bronx in over 50 years. Yes, we have men and women in business and an NYPD that we want to thank, but it's the immigrant population, the citizenry, who's really making us a better Bronx. So for the President Trump or members of Congress or anybody else to vilify or try to vilify the immigrant population, I would say to them, you should come and witness how great we are here in the Bronx because of those people who have come here and left everything that they know in their native countries to make the Bronx, to make New York, and therefore America a better place.
16 years ago, country is together, all religious, all color. Why is these days is divided?
I don't know, and that's why it's important to have this event so that people can remember not only the attacks, not only the heroism and the bravery and the lives that were lost, but also to remember how we all came together and how at that moment it was one of the most beautiful, most powerful moments in the history of our nation. And so that's what made us strong. And for people to try to divide us, I think that they forgot. So that's why this event is important.
What can you say about the community in general, especially the Muslim community, who feel a sense of hurt because they're all categorized in one category? Just let him answer that.
What I would tell the Muslim community, our Muslim brothers and sisters, is that you have friends in the borough president, you have friends in government, you have friends here in the city of New York and in the Bronx. It is the reason why we passed law to make sure that your children could observe the Eids in the school year without being penalized. It is the reason why we had such a wonderful event last weekend celebrating the Eid, with the Hajj, observance of the Hajj. And so, we know that Muslims were killed in 9/11. So the message that I will have for them is, even though we have a president of the United States who says ugly things, we love you here in the Bronx. We love you here in New York, and we're going to continue to work for you and with you to make our city and our country a better place. And thank you for all of the work that you do to make this a better place.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
আমরা আসছি আজকে ফ্রন্ট অফ সুপ্রিম কোর্ট ব্রন্স নিউ ইয়র্ক। সেখানে খুব ভালোই প্রোগ্রাম হলো ব্রন্স বড় প্রেসিডেন্টের 9/11 উপলক্ষে যে প্রোগ্রাম করছে যারা মৃত তাদের জন্য দোয়া প্রার্থনা এবং সামনের দিকে ব্রন্স এবং আমেরিকাকে কিভাবে এগিয়ে নেওয়া যায় সেই কথাই ব্রন্স বড় প্রেসিডেন্ট বলছেন। ব্রঞ্জ থেকে নূর মোহাম্মদ।